This woman should be in jail. Literally, Hillary Clinton should be behind bars. And so should the people who worked for her who did this. This is so blatantly corrupt. She wanted to distract from her email scandal. She cooked up a plan to accuse Trump of being a Russian agent in order to distract from her own legitimate scandal. She made up a scandal about Trump being a Russian asset. And they banked on the intel agencies working with her to perpetuate this lie, and it appears they were only too happy to assist. That's what this scandal's about. Pieces of it we knew. New pieces are coming in by the day thanks to these declassifications. And it's downright shocking. Do not believe that there's no there there. The people who are saying that are wrong. They're wrong.
Everyone keeps asking the same blunt question. How did the inevitable president become the punchline of her own coronation? That's not trolls talking. That's the mood of the room. And the spark this time isn't a...
They stole his first term as president. These absolute liars who run around trying to act like they're the protectors of democracy completely ruined it, tried to undermine it at every turn and at the highest levels with lies, with out and out lies that were really serious and changed foreign policy and changed the course of history in this country in Trump's presidency. And there must be accountability. There has to be actual criminal accountability for those who lied. And I can't wait to see this administration do it.
How anybody can look at that and say that there wasn't aggressive violations of the law. What they basically did is they would take something that supported a Hillary Clinton campaign talking point and they would overemphasize it and exaggerate it. They took anything that actually contradicted that narrative and they buried it deep. And through that, they actually laundered Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign talking points through
campaign ad or an opposition dump. It's a cold public audit. Megyn Kelly and J.D. Vance just took a blowtorch to the myth of inevitability, and in the first minute, they do what the consultants never will: say out loud what voters felt. Here's the core of it: no hedging. Clinton's promise of destiny wasn't stolen. It collapsed under the weight of her own record. And if you're here because...
How not to run a campaign.
Okay, well, first of all, she didn't say he was an illegitimate...
Yes, she did.
You tell me exactly what she said.
She said those exact words repeatedly.
Okay. I mean, she conceded the election. Whether you're interpreting her disappointment at losing it as the same thing as Trump not conceding it, I don't know if that's where you're getting it from. But again, it's a tremendous false equivalency. You could ask Hillary Clinton right now, who won that election.
You saw the clips. You're in the right place. Click confirmed. Now the stakes. This matters because the same cast keeps stepping back onto the stage with the same script. History cheated me, not the voters rejecting me, while insisting that dissent should be regulated away and that the past was a misunderstanding. Meanwhile, a not-so-small chorus says Trump's first term was sabotaged by people laundering campaign talking points into intelligence and burying anything that didn't fit. That's not a quiet accusation.
As for us, we also let him know that we will continue to speak truth to power and push back hard when called for.
Oh, please.
As we have with all presidents.
Don't be mistaken. We're not here to defend or normalize Donald Trump. We're here to report on him.
I searched for a way to respond appropriately, and I called on my 10 years as a litigator in addition to my now 20 as a journalist, and I think I found the perfect phrase: go fuck yourselves. Go fuck yourselves, you dishonest jokes of faux journalists. What an absurd farce that was, Glenn. Which one was insincere? He's Hitler, or now we're going to speak truth to power and find a way of speaking to and working with Donald Trump? Which one was a lie?
Kind that demands a reckoning. Here's the tease. We're going to pull apart the inevitability branding versus the numbers on the board reality. Revisit the loss that should have been impossible if the narrative were true. Crack open the Senate years that read like a resume line and the State Department stretch that turned into a domestic punchline. And yes, we're going to replay the moments that revealed more than the spin ever could. Deplorables, the illegitimate, drumbeat, the merch that claims she was right about. Everything, and the calls, alleged and explicit, to police speak.
I saw recently President Trump withdrew Hillary Clinton's security clearance, which you had to do.
Yes.
I mean, that must have been a little fun. Right? Oh, just a little fun.
I smiled.
Of course you did. You're only human.
Yeah, I am.
So yeah, that's over for her.
Each in the name of truth. Hold those in your mind. I'll circle back and close every loop. Start with what I'd rank second strongest because it sets the tone. The inevitability costume. For 20 years, the brand machine airbrushed Clinton into an archetype. The breaker of ceilings, the chosen next chapter, the unspoken rule of succession. The vibe wasn't make the case, it was get over yourself, she's next. Megyn Kelly shreds that posture, not with a scream, but with a scalpel. If inevitability were real, it would have produced something unmistakable in the open.
This was started by Hillary Clinton.
Why?
She started the Tulsi because Tulsi was a rising star within Democratic politics. She had all the boxes checked. She was a woman. She was a minority. She was the first this and the first that. And she was a combat vet. Beautiful, well-spoken, like amazing. And then she started to be kind of open-minded to what Bernie Sanders was saying and maybe had some problems with the Hillary Clinton messaging and having Hillary shoved down our throat as the Democratic nominee back in 2016.
Yes.
And spoke up about it and started to make enemies in the party because of that. And then was outraged when she found out the DNC cheated on behalf of Hillary to try to make sure she got the nomination and screwed Bernie. And she was angry and a rift was formed.
In sunlight, a base that grew because it believed, a record that stiffened spines instead of rolling eyes, and a campaign that didn't need the referees to tilt the primary. The context is cinematic, rallies that felt more like obligations and movements, speeches that landed like well-crafted press releases, and a candidate who radiated the energy of a CEO of a company that sells trust while outsourcing sincerity. Application. When a politician mistakes proximity to power for proof of competence, voters eventually do the math. They look at the glossy ad and then at the product in their hand.
And shut him up. And then consider just yesterday, one of the chief surrogates of of Kamala Harris's campaign is Hillary Clinton. And you know what Hillary Clinton said yesterday? She said that misinformation should be met with criminal penalties. That we ought to throw people in jail and silence them if they say something that Hillary Clinton disagrees with.
Me in the eye. It was such a jaw dropper. Watch. Hillary Clinton, of course, is the original election denier. I'm sure you voted for her in 2016.
Well, she's not an election denier.
She absolutely was the OG election denier.
She, first of all, she came out before the sun had risen to concede the election to Trump.
And then spent the next 4 years saying he was illegitimate. He was
hands. Framing. Expectations versus reality. The expectation said history owed her the keys. Reality said voters do not tip on entitlement. And once that gap appears, every carefully staged moment looks like theater, not leadership. Now the strongest point, the one Vance swings like a sledgehammer. The defeat that the narrative swore could never happen. In 2016, Clinton had everything the textbooks say you need. Money that could flood a state in a weekend, endorsements that read like a donor Christmas card, and a media weather system that rained favorable coverage. If inevitability were tangible, that was the moment you touch it. And yet, the result, not just a loss, an implosion. Vance describes it like a venture that burned through billions only to discover the product market fit never existed. Context. A primary season where the party apparatus leaned in like a stagehand holding up scenery, and still the room never filled with organic electricity. Application. Lose an election the establishment swears is yours, and the country concludes what the brand refused to say. The ceiling didn't shatter because the foundation wasn't there. Framing. Expectations promised a coronation. Reality delivered a referendum on authenticity. The coronation theme song stopped mid-chorus, and all you could hear were swing voters changing the channel. Let's rewind to the opening allegations that set this whole conversation ablaze. The claim that Trump's first term was kneecapped by people at the top laundering campaign narratives into intelligence, exaggerating anything that fit, burying anything that didn't, and calling it protection of democracy. That's the charge.